Hello everyone and welcome to the first movie discussion on the channel. So today I'm doing my face reveal. This is what I look like when I'm not hiding behind the avatar. And also I'm joined today by Tobias. We're actually going to have a discussion today instead of me just yapping about alone in my videos. So this is going to be lots of fun and we're going to talk about Batman 1989. So Tobias, how are you today?
I'm pretty well, dressed for the occasion.
When did Batman come into your life? What was your first sort of memories of the character?
My earliest memories comes from the animated series and the whole legacy of the first Batman, because it was all around me when I grew up. The comic had a little resurgence in Sweden. The show went every Saturday, so you were always up having your action figure ready.
I must confess right off the bat, I'm no Batman expert. I've read a few comics, but my knowledge first and foremost are from the movies and the video games. But my first sort of exposure to Batman was the TV series, of course, from the 60s, which was broadcast on Swedish TV in the late 80s, I believe. What is your first memories of watching Batman 89?
Well, having grown up watching the Batman animated series, you kind of directly notice when something says Batman. And we had like all parents had back in the nights, a cupboard with all the recorded VHSs from TV. So when go through, what I want to watch today? And suddenly it's just a Batman. And I didn't notice that before, so popped it in, watched it. Kind of loved it from the start.
Right.
Then, of course, my parents were very chill about watching kind of a bit more mature stories. I remember we were watching the Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie a bit too young as well, because, you know, as what happens there, he comes home and his father's servant is there with his eyes cut out. And my mom said simply, but he's so kind, Robin Hood, so it's okay. So we were kind of free to watch a bit more mature movies, and you felt that I felt like an adult actually watching that Batman, because it felt like the adult version of the animated series that I've been watching all the time.
Yeah, and we were digressing a little bit, but I do remember when Robin Hood Prince of Thieves came out on VHS, you could actually rent two versions of it. There was one more a little bit more violent, and then there was the more kid-friendly cut. So there was actually two versions available in the video store.
So interesting, the TV-safe version hit the shelves as well. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. And we rented the harder cut, so to speak. I was about 11 when Batman 89 came out, so I still remember the hype. And I grew up in a little village in Sweden, and the hype reached all the way to the middle of nowhere. I still remember in our little store we had I remember the Batman soda. It was, I believe, an orange soda of some kind with a really beautiful can with, you know, with the logo and everything. I really wish I would have kept one of those cans, at least an empty one. I did find my little Batmobile, so I will take a separate picture. But so this is actually from the late 80s. So this is one of the toys that came out, and thankfully I actually took care of this one. A lot of my toys are in kind of bad shape. And we have the novelization as well in Swedish, which is more or less the finished screenplay. It's a very sort of almost Hemingway-esque. It's more or less just a screenplay, but in prose form, I guess. And also this came out to sort of the making of the Batman, the official books. I will show a couple of pictures as we talk about the movie, and some interesting stuff that wasn't in the film. Maybe we should talk about the casting first and foremost. Obviously you had Michael Keaton, and there was Jack Nicholson, and well, one of them was sort of a controversial pick and one was not. So what is your opinion on Michael Keaton as Batman?
I think it's great. Then again, I kind of got to it after the whole controversy. Both his movies were out by then when I finally watched it, so he was already accepted, so I had no problem with him. And it kind of rhymed well with the Batman I had in my head watching the animated series. then again, you're not as critical and analyzing when you're like 6-8 years old watching something. But it clearly worked for me. I think it's brilliant. He holds up pretty well.
I wasn't familiar with Michael Keaton. I don't remember watching any of his movies before Batman. My first sort of image of Batman was from one of the evening papers in Sweden, where there were I think there was one publicity still from the the gala where Vicky and Knox goes to meet Bruce Wayne, and there was also a picture of Batman, and I was like, oh my god, it's a black suit, because I was sort of used to the TV series one and how he looked in the comics, but this was like all black, and I remember the big pointy ears. I was like, well, those ears are really big. So that was my sort of first impressions. So I didn't really have one way or another a lot of feelings about it. I was like, yeah, well, that could work. And well, obviously now he's maybe the most beloved Batman of all, I guess. I mean, when he was cast in The Flash, everyone was like, oh my god, he's coming back.
Yeah, kind of funny, because I saw, not to talk too much about The Flash, but I saw a behind the scenes interview where they went to Keaton and said, yeah, we have improved your suit, you can do this and then with the neck and all that, like Christian Bale did. And he went, no, it's important that I do that.
Exactly. Jack Nicholson as a Joker. I mean, we have talked about this earlier. We both read the original first draft by Sam Hamm from October 86. And there the Joker is 32 years old. I did the calculations. That would mean that Jack Nicholson would have been essentially the Jack Nicholson from 5 Easy Pieces.
Well, it kind of much leans into his erratic behavior you get from vibes you get from Jack Nicholson. So it's much more, in the final version, tailored to him compared to what you read in the original Sam Hamm draft. But it totally works because he has that edge to him that makes you accept that he's older and that he's not maybe perhaps 100% comic accurate, but it gets the spirit because it's all compatible with what his style is.
So we go into the title sequence, of course, and the first thing we see is the Warner Brothers logo, which has been sort of regraded a bit, and that was kind of a new thing back in the 80s. You didn't see it, now you see it all the time, but at the time, that was kind of a new take.
Yeah, and what I like about the credits here, because it's a nice contrast to Superman. You obviously growing up with those movies know how bombastic the score is and the names are flying through space. It's an otherworldly thing. This alien is coming to save us, this powerful being. On the other hand, we go through this odd canyon. We don't really exactly know what it is. The mystique builds up with the Batman March, Danny Elfman's brilliant score, and we're slowly revealed back out to the end of the credits and we see the Bat logo. So it brings us into the mysterious darkness and that there's a mystery about to be solved in front of our eyes.
Absolutely. It's a nice trick that a filmmaker can use when you start close on something. It gets the audience attention, and here we're sort of traveling through tunnels almost. Like, what is this? It's like a sewer or some sort of castle, and then there's this slow reveal. Imagine how different it would have been if you started on the Batman logo and then sort of drifted through all the little tunnels. So it's a really nice way of getting the audience involved in a subconscious way.
Yeah, and it's a great mood setter as well. You don't get a lot of pre-title sequence these days. Usually, bam, title card, and we get the full credits later on.
Maybe we should mention Danny Elfman's score. He was not the obvious pick for this movie. He was quite accomplished. He hadn't done a whole lot of big movies. He had done Midnight Run with Robert De Niro. But he was sort of like the producers were kind of wary about him. Like, I don't know if this guy is the right guy. And then he played the Batman March. Tim Burton told him to play the Batman March for the producers. And that sort of got him the gig.
Yeah, that theme song is the quintessential Batman sound. And I kind of agree with Danny Elfman, what he said in an interview. I think it was in Empire when they talked about him returning to score Joss Whedon's versions of the Justice League, that Of course I'm gonna use my Batman theme. There is only one Batman theme.
Then we cut to Gotham City, which of course is the backlot at Pinewood Studios.
And they do get a lot of usage of that Monarch Theater throughout the movie.
Yeah, a lot of it takes place in that sort of city block with with the Monarch Theater and a couple of other places, but a lot of it is right around that specific spot. So we see a couple and their son, of course, which is sort of a fake out. We are meant to think that this is the Waynes, essentially.
The whole old Art Deco meets modern makes you think it is a bit in the past. Like it is a flashback to introduce the character, but no, they get robbed and suddenly you see the silhouette of Batman on the roof watching it all. Why doesn't he intervene earlier?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. He sort of starts the movie at the cathedral and he ends the movie at the cathedral. He doesn't do anything. He's sort of like standing there and I'm gonna kick these guys' asses in a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just... I don't know if it's a mistake in editing or if it's Michael Scarron's script, but if we look at the older draft by Sam Hamm, it switched around that we do see the rooftops before the robbery, and we do see that Batman is moving about in the gargoyles like he's already out there watching.
Right.
And then this happens, and we just wait for him to act.
We cut to the roof, and we see these two goons or like thieves or robbers. First, see him backlit as he descends from one of the high rooftops, and they hear something, and then we see him in all his glory. And I guess we could point out that one of the changes from the first draft was that the Batman was supposed to have mirrors for eyes, sort of like more of a comic book, I guess, kind of a deal.
I think it's a creative decision because how that mask is molded in the end, because you do need to have emotion from the eyes. Yes. And as the story goes, there is a lot of interactions where not only just the mouth wouldn't help convey the emotions quite the way I think they need to do if we don't have the eyes. It's one of those moments where the cinematography really looks like a comic book panel.
I still think in when he shows himself to the robbers, I still think he's a little bit too front lit in that particular shot.
The point of view shot from the robbers when he stands like this and looking down on him, yeah, that's probably too much front lit.
Yeah, just a little bit. Maybe I should have just softened it somewhat. So we cut to the dinner or sort of the press conference with Harvey Dent and the mayor. And Harvey Dent played, of course, by Billy D. Williams. And as a kid, I had no idea that he was Two-Face, because also Two-Face never showed up in the TV series. I wasn't even familiar that there was a bad guy called Two-Face.
Two-Face never showed up in the Adam West show. They did an animated feature a couple of years ago before Adam West passed away, where... William Shatner played Two-Face, so we tried to bring him retroactively into that continuity, but no. Two-Face was never part of that, but it was part of the animated series, and I knew it when I saw the movie. Ooh, that's the future Two-Face. One if it happens now, happens later.
Yeah. I think the idea, the reason he didn't show up in the TV series was it was deemed too scary, even if the makeup maybe had been sort of like kid-friendly. It was considered too scary for kids. So we intercut with of course Jack Nicholson's first scene in the movie, where he's watching the press conference, and I guess this is one of my controversial takes. I mean, I do love the movie and I love Jack Nicholson in the role, but I always felt, for whatever reason, that this first scene is the weakest one. The lines felt a bit too rehearsed, and he plays it very, like he's very arrogant, and the character is arrogant and slimy, but he just, I don't know, it feels like he plays it rather than being it, so it's just a minor quibble, but I always felt that particular scene just felt a little bit off.
Well, the first act is a bit expository heavy, so I think he just delivers exposition more than emote on the exposition. I think the important line, if you look at character from that scene, is "You look nice," and he looks back at Alicia and said, "I didn't ask."
Yeah, exactly.
There's
yeah,
the arrogance you need from
it
it.
sums up the character. So we cut back to the streets, and the two criminals are loaded into ambulances, and then we're introduced to Alexander Knox, which is a new character in the Batman universe. So what's your opinion on Alexander Knox?
I mean, the idea of him is kind of good. You know, the point of view character that introduces, that we discover things along with, that kind of gets to explain why something is odd, why something is bad, why something is good. Because he kind of is a new person into this universe. So we kind of get along with him. He kind of drops that purpose later on when Vic is introduced, and he's more like her sidekick.
He gets handed a drawing of a bat signed by Bob Kane. And maybe we should also acknowledge this, that well, at the time, Bob Kane was seen as the sole creator of Batman. But that wasn't quite true, was it?
No, he had a couple of hands helping him back then. So just that he cut a better deal. You have Bill Fingerpig did a big part in the creation of him. He had him notes, sketches. It went from a red-dressed gentleman in a domino mask, blonde with flappy wings on his sides, over to the more iconic silhouette.
We get introduced now to Vicky Vale, played by Kim Basinger, replacing Sean Young, who had a riding accident and was replaced more or less with a week before production was about to start. But you can't really tell, because Kim Basinger sort of slips pretty effortlessly into her part.
Yeah, that Sean Young thing is interesting, because it was horse riding in rehearsal for the movie, for a scene that is not in the final film and not in the Sam Hamm draft. There's a reference to horses, but we never see anything. It's kind of interesting, that scene, if you compare it to the Sam Hamm script. One, you do get the feeling that they have history together, like they're ex-lovers or partners, and that she's a rich girl.
Yeah.
Because she is invited to this socialite event.
Yeah.
Which is, they just shrub it off in the movie. She just has the tickets, but in the Sam Hamm script, she's prepared. She's in the circle.
So now we cut to Carl Grissom and his gang talking about Harvey Dent and the connection to Axis Chemicals. And this is, of course, Jack Palance playing Carl Grissom. It's funny when one just think about the movie, you get a sense that he's in quite a big presence in the movie overall in the beginning, but turns out Jack Palance is only in 2 scenes in total.
Yeah, but what helps, I think, is that Jack Palance has that Christopher Lee energy.
Yeah.
You can have him in 1 or 2 scenes, but his energy fills up the space. You feel his presence, even though people are just talking about him.
Yeah.
But after effect, you remember, there he was. During all this talk, Alicia enters the room, and Carl Grissom tells her to wait over there. You see, she looks at Jack looks at her, Grissom looks at them both, so he knows.
Yeah, it is a really nice piece of filmmaking. It just looks. It's just 3 close-ups, and you know instantly what is going on. She looks at Jack, and Carl sort of watches them both. So it's a really nice little moment, and just tells what you can do by showing and without saying it out literally. In the novel version, there is a little paragraph that Jack is really proud of his trick, sort of mixing his lucky deck with one hand. So that's what I did when I was sort of a kid. I used to practice this. So you can do it like this. So you use your thumb, and you don't really shuffle the deck. You essentially just take the first card and placing it on the top. But I was really proud that I could sort of pull that off. So yeah, look at that. Still got it.
Also, something when we're speaking of that deck of cards that I noticed since reading the script, there is a bullet hole in the Joker.
Yes, it is.
The script points out that it's saved his life stopping a bullet once. And I didn't catch that until I watched the movie in preparation for this. That bullet hole is still there.
Now we cut to the gala evening, or the sort of charity dinner, I guess you can say. And I believe the exterior of Wayne Manor is not a set. That is actually a building in the UK somewhere.
Yeah, it's a pretty well used building. I think it's been used in the X-Men movies as well. I think a few of them, and it will be used again in Batman Forever.
And we see Vicky Vale with her big fancy dress, and she meets Bruce Wayne, of course. And this is like, well, exclude. This is first time we have seen Batman before, but we haven't seen Bruce Wayne. So I mean, he sort of plays it. You get a sense that he's sort of a bit out of touch with the world. He sort of looks little bit lost. He has like a pen. He's not sure where to place it, and Alfred swoops in and grabs the pen. I think he places it in one of the flower pots or something. And then he takes his champagne glass and gonna put it on the roulette table, and Alfred is there and swoops it up. It's really nice sort of character moments.
Yeah, it works two ways, because you see that Alfred is one that takes care of him, and also that Bruce Wayne's a bit more aloof, you know, not aware of his surroundings or some social situations. Like he sees Vicky and I'm not sure. He's taken by her in a way that feels more like, ooh, I'm the shy guy. The cute girl talk to me.
Yeah,
than,
exactly.
The whole playful, I'm Bruce Wayne, playboy that is in the comics.
Might be a nice time also to talk about Michael Gough, an old Hammer horror actor among many other things.
He's a brilliant Alfred. He's probably my favorite Alfred, specifically because of this movie, because you do get the fatherly feeling for relationship here.
For the most part, the Alfred actors has been great, but I think he's my favorite as well. Vicky and Knox walks out of the sort of this big hallway, and we see that there's a couple of cameras behind the mirror, and that's when we get sort of our first little glimpse of the Batcave. One thing I do want to point out that I'm going to give the movie credit for, and I didn't really pick up on this until I sort of rewatched it, because I remember the scene one way, but it turned out to be slightly different, because in this time, in the sort of the late 80s and early 90s, whenever you had surveillance camera footage, filmmakers tended to use just the shot from the actual scene and maybe put some black and white on it, and oh look, we had a surveillance camera picking up the dialogue. But so I always figured that's what they had done. But if you look at it closely, it's actually a different angle when Gordon and the police officer are having their interaction. Because
there's even a little line there that's not in the first scene.
So we see Bruce takes off his glasses, and then he suits up, and then we cut to Axis Chemicals, which in the first draft was actually Ace Chemicals, which I believe is featured in the comics.
Yeah, in the comics it is Ace Chemicals. I've watched an interview with Sam Hamm where he points out that the producers were kind of worried because there was a trademarked Ace Chemicals. I don't remember if it was a actual company or it was a fictive one in a story that they were worried they were gonna get cease and desist on. But so they changed to Axis Chemicals, and they dreamed up a little backstory that there were probably Nazis that fled from Europe back to America and started up this little thing back in the 50s.
So it's a really nice establishing shot of Axis Chemicals. It's part model and part real, so the lower half of the screen is real and the upper part is a model that's been composited onto the frame. It's a really nice design as well. You have on the top, I believe left, there's like a window that looks like a big smile, and that was very much intentional. Like it sort of foreshadows what's going to happen inside and what's going to happen to Jack.
Yeah, funny thing about the models in this movie, they're made by Derek Meddings, that also made the miniature work for at least GoldenEye.
Yes.
In the Bond series. I think he did a little model work for License to Kill and Living Daylights as well.
Yeah.
He's I'm not sure about Living Daylights, but I think he did the van going underwater in License to Kill. There's a couple of model shots he made.
No, it looks really great. And then, of course, the interiors are shot at Acton Power Station, where they also shot the alien hive from Aliens. And supposedly they found pieces that were still left from the actual Queen hive inside Acton when they were going to shoot the interiors for Batman. I don't know if this is true or not, but from what I heard, there was still slime and eggs in there.
Imagine being a production assistant going down location scouting, going around the corner, and suddenly like 8 eggs.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think the Queen was there, but supposedly some of the sets were still intact. And then the cops show up and we have a big shootout, and Jack is sort of separated from his crew, and of course Batman shows up as well. Maybe it's a good time to talk about the bat suit. So how would you rank this bat suit compared to all that we had?
I do think it shows some weak points. It's a great suit, but it feels kind of cheap compared to what it gets in returns, because that molded cowl, sometimes it feels like they have cut the eyes a bit wrong. The ears can be a bit wonky if you look for it. It looks great in the dark.
Yeah.
Perhaps when it's being more lit, the illusion kind of breaks. It looks a bit cheap then, but it is a great suit, introductory suit for him.
Yeah, it is. I actually, this could also be controversial, but it's actually my favorite bat suits. I kind of like that it's sort of imperfect. I always felt like the suit in Batman Returns is almost kind of grayish looking, and it's looked, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just feel that the texture and just the sculpting, it's just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I sort of always gravitated to that particular one. I always felt like the suit in the Nolan trilogy was a bit too much SWAT member-ish. Like, it looked very practical, it looked realistic, but I always sort of kind of went back to this one.
I mean, it's just when you compare them to the others, it does feel great in the context of this being Batman's year one in this universe, that he works on it, it gets better with time.
Well, this was his first one, so he perfected the formula for building a better bat suit eventually. But anyhow, I mean, in the original screenplay, I mean, the action scene is sort of like more or less the same. There are some changes. One thing I thought was kind of interesting, that in the Batman arsenal is more or less the same, but there is one tool that he uses in the screenplay that wasn't in the movie, but there was actually you have the ninja wheel here.
Yeah, it's funny how it's referred to as the ninja wheel. Yeah. Because I think the correct term is shuriken.
Yes, it is. It is.
Or ninja star was the popular term in the 80s, when people go, no, ninjas, too violent. We can't have ninjas.
Yeah, and this was also in the time, in the 80s, the ninjas was all the craze. You couldn't go into a video store without seeing Shogun's Ninja, American Ninja, Revenge of Ninja. There was like ninjas everywhere, and in computer games as well. So I guess it made sense to add a ninja wheel. But I think, it was considered a bit too nasty, a bit too harsh for the kids, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you get also from the interview I mentioned earlier with Sam Hamm, that there was a kind of an Asian inspiration to it all, because when they were spawning ideas for the action scenes and all that, he had Jackie Chan had gone to Chinatown and watched Police Story, Armor of God, and all those movies, and went, yeah, it would have been great if Jackie Chan made our action scenes. And
then, of course, Bob, the goon, points his gun at Commissioner Gordon, who has also arrived at the scene, because Gordon knows that Eckhart is corrupt, so he's there himself to sort of take charge. Jack picks up his gun, and then we have our first sort of Batman vanishing scenes. That is no sort of like a trope, like someone talks to Batman, they turn around for like a couple of seconds and turn back, and then Batman is gone.
Yeah, that's a trope that comes from the very first issue, because I believe there is a scene there where Commissioner Gordon and Smoker's Pipe goes, oh, where did Batman go? So that ninja skill has always been there. But speaking of Commissioner Gordon, Pat Hingle as Gordon, I think it's at his most capable here compared to any other of the first 4 movies.
No, totally, I agree. I mean, I think Pat Hingle is really good in the part, but Commissioner Gordon in these first sort of 4 Batman movies, he has always been kind of underused, and come the later films, his only purpose was more or less to just call Batman. So sort of what Commissioner Gordon did back in the TV series, but then they had the Bat phone.
You get the idea from Sam Hamm's script. He's also a more capable character, but he's not in really that relationship we expect Batman and Gordon to have. We get that more hinted in a scene that's cut between Harvey Dent and Bruce Wayne when they talk like, does he know that he is, or...
Yeah.
Because he gets tips from one place somewhere.
Yeah.
But we never get that relationship between Gordon. We do get in that script with Harvey Dent, but we never get an interaction between Dent and Batman or Bruce Wayne in this movie.
You know, in the first draft of the screenplay, things are essentially the same, but Batman throws a ninja star at the goon that's pointing the gun at Gordon, and the goon shoots his gun, hitting Jack in the face. Here is a little bit different. Jack points the gun at Batman, Batman pulls the glove up, and the bullet ricochets into Jack's face. So he tumbles over the guardrail, and then sort of Batman grabs him. And it's always been, I don't know, maybe sort of like a fan theory that Batman actually lets him go. I guess what the filmmakers are going for is that he's holding on to Jack, but then he just slips. But there's been interpretations that if you look at Batman's eyes, it's like he sees something there, something evil, so he actually lets Jack go.
I don't buy into the theory, because I do think Batman in the end, at least in this movie, is out trying to help. And I don't think letting him die would help bring Grissom in.
Yeah. No,
it's more like that. It's straining it. But if you want to lean into that theory, I think it's more that possibly the first thing that he recognizes his face.
Probably.
Like, wait, there is this guy. There's something familiar.
That could be it.
And that confusion makes him unconsciously losing his grip. Like, I don't know. You can read that into it, but I don't think that is the case. It's bringing us back to the comics and the Joker origin, because this is very much inspired by the Killing Joke, the vibe of this movie, and the whole scenario we get here. It makes its own spin of it, of course, because in the comic, The Killing Joke, Joker is not a hoodlum for a gangster organization. He is a failed comic that is drawn in for quick and easy money for his pregnant wife. But it is the same scenario. They are going to rob and steal documents from Ace Chemicals. He's unprepared, doesn't know what to do, wearing a red hoodie, can't see through, and falls into the acid.
Yeah. Now, I think that's a really nice touch. I mean, Sam Hamm was very much a comic book guy, or is. He's still with us. And you can really tell when... and he has... we will get later on to some of the more controversial aspects of the story, which he has always denied. That wasn't me. That was some other writer. I didn't do that. But we'll get to that. So we cut to an exterior of Axis, and we see Batman on the roof. And then we cut to the sort of where all the sludge is dumped into the Gotham River, I suppose, or something, and we see a hand come up, and I always felt that hand, maybe I could have done a better job, because it looks kind of like a prop. I don't know, maybe it is a real hand, but I always got the sense, if you look how it moves, it looks like something on sort of a pole or something coming up, because I think the thumb moves a little bit, but I always felt it looks sort of fake.
It feels very stiff. If it is just some guy pointing his hand up the water out of frame,
the
really stiff latex glove on or something, because it does really look stiff and fake.
Yeah, exactly. So we're back in Gotham Globe, and a short scene, Knox and Vicky, and talking about maybe Batman has some sort of pattern or something, and Knox suggests that they're gonna have dinner and then walk the trail, but Vicky has a date with Bruce Wayne, and I always wondered who asked for the date. Was that Vicky, or do you think it was Bruce? I always felt that maybe we should have actually seen that if Bruce was the one approaching her.
Good question. I do get the feeling from the script that he did it because he's curious. but you don't really get who would do it here. I think it's her.
We might mention that in the first draft of the screenplay, the date was much more elaborate. They were on a yacht, and then they went to the opera as well. And there was a lot more like interaction between them. That goes for the entire draft. Like the love story is a bit massaged a little bit more. You get more details and more interactions.
This addition or change to it all makes a bit more sense because it is more intimate.
Yes.
That's what I like about it. We get this great gag with the dining table.
Yeah.
You know, did they have trouble here? Then we cut to, it's a really long table, which what makes it funny when you think about it, Alfred set this table.
Yes,
so he's kind of messing with the date to, I think it's to help them break the ice because, as we pointed out, he is a bit stiff in the social interaction. So this whole gag by Alfred is probably a way for him to open up.
Now, it's a really neat. I mean, that's one of the things that sort of struck me when I, rewatched this for the podcast. That it has some really nice ways of telling the story with just visuals. The long table is such a wonderful metaphor for where they are at this point in the relationship. So you're totally right. And then we cut to the little kitchen, and Alfred has joined them, of course. And that's also a really nice little scene. It sort of grounds the movie in more, not reality maybe, but it gets a warmer, more fuzzy feeling.
It's intimate. We get to know the characters. We get to know Alfred, Bruce, and Dickie.
We cut to this high-end surgery place where we see, of course, Jack has gotten surgery, and it's a really neat little scene, actually. And you can see he asks for a mirror, and then you can just hear the faintest sound of him crying when he looks at himself, and then after that, he sort of tips over and starts laughing. It's a really cool little moment.
Yeah, it's a nice recontextualization of the Killing Joke. Because in the Killing Joke, he pops out of the raw sewage pipe, begins to cry, and over to maniacal laughter. But here, it's in another context, but you get the same idea.
Yeah.
That is starting to get to him, okay, something is different with me. And the whole mirror thing adds nicely to it, because you can see his shell breaking, because there has been a lot of restrained anger from Jack up to this point.
Yeah.
And this is the whole one bad day that simply makes him crack.
And then we cut to, Jack Palance's last scene in the movie. Tim Burton tells a story that supposedly Jack Palance coming out of the bathroom was the first scene shot in the entire movie. And Tim Burton says that for whatever reason he couldn't quite communicate with Jack Palance, and Jack Palance was getting a bit annoyed, and finally Jack goes, "I've made over 100 films. How many have you made?" And Tim Burton tells he has an out-of-body experience, a wide-out moment. He was terrified. But eventually they got the scene done, but he was terrified of the guy, at least at that point.
Yeah, I've made over 100 movies. You can't really reply with, "Yeah, I did Pee-wee's Big Adventure." I think it's a kind of a helpful tip for any aspiring filmmaker out there. Don't begin and shoot a scene like this at first, because you need to get that confidence. You probably just do a little pickup shot of, he's screwing in a light bulb or something easy, just to build that confidence. Not take one of few scenes with a legendary screen actor and go be unsure how you tell him to get out of the bathroom.
And then the elevator comes up, and he says something to the effect of, "Is it you, sugar bums or sugar bubs or whatever it is?" And it's kind of interesting. Well, because I looked at just before we came on here, I looked at a couple of scenes on my TV, and my TV is set a little bit brighter, so you could actually see the Joker face pretty clearly as he steps out of the elevator. And but it all depends on which TV set you have. But ideally, he would be just a black silhouette.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit to do. Modern HD and 4K tellies have a tendency to putting up a bit more sharpness, a bit more brightness.
Yeah.
But if you've seen it on the 35mm on the screen or the TV, it's probably it's a bit darker.
There is a kind of a nice line in the first draft, something to the effect of Carl tells him, Jack, we can do a deal. And then Jack replies with, do I look like a Jack? I'm a joker. Now
you made me a joker.
Yeah, exactly. So he does this reveal, and there's this famous little goof where part of his coat is sort of smeared off on the white makeup, so he has a little purple dot on his neck. And eventually they fixed that, and they did supposedly more takes of the scene, but to the chagrin, I guess, of the makeup artist, they chose to go with the first. I mean, today it would have been pretty easy to remove that with a computer, but back in the day that would have been like hand-drawn animation and whatnot, and it would just have been too costly and taken too much time.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I mentioned to a script supervisor friend of ours, me being an editor by trade, that they do all these notes about, makeup was wrong there, the lighting didn't go well there, there's a bit out of focus there. But then when you're sitting in the editing suite, you don't care about that. You look at it, okay, this is the best reaction, this is the best acting, this works best for the scene as a whole. On the continuity, I don't care.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a clash. But in the end, it's what if this tech worked best?
Yes.
It's for us nerds to nitpick and watch for that little thing.
Yeah, no, that's just the way you gotta go. I mean, the performance has to come first. I would have made the same decision probably, but I never noticed actually until it was pointed out, because I always looked at the eyes, so I never noticed really. So he shoots Carl a whole bunch of times, and then we sort of we cut back to Vicky in bed, and she sort of wakes up and she looks over and she sees Bruce hanging upside down on some sort of contraption.
Yeah, it's one of those odd moments, like you get feeling that he's trying to put some distance between his Batman persona and his Bruce Wayne persona, but he has a girl sleep over and he decides to hang upside down for a nap.
Yeah, exactly. I always figured maybe if it was early in the morning, he was doing some sort of gymnastics, maybe sit-ups when you're hanging down or something, but we don't really see that. We see he sort of stretches his arms a little bit. So I kind of figured it was sort of like some sort of morning routine or whatever. But no, I mean, the symbolism is pretty clear.
Yeah, just to go back a little bit when you mentioned just to go back to the Carl Grissom scene a bit. There is a difference which I find kind of significant when it comes to the Joker's motivation. In the Sam Hamm script, that's not as clear in the final movie, because you get the idea. They skip over the whole newspaper thing in the Sam Hamm. He sits in Grissom's chair, looks out the window, and he starts to talk about the plans he has for the city.
Yeah.
So you get more hints of what's to come there, instead of the trailer line, "Winged freak terrorizes city. Wait till they get a load of me."
Yeah.
It's much more trailer line than
absolutely
the setup line that we get in the script.
Absolutely.
But we can talk more about the Joker's motivation when the Smilex plan kicks in.
It's a really beautiful lit scene, by the way, when he's sitting in front of the Gotham skyline. It's really beautifully shot, which goes for the entire movie. I mean, it's a really beautifully lit movie, and takes a lot of inspiration, of course, from like German expressionism and whatnot.
Yeah, it's one of Tim Burton's biggest inspirations is the German expressionism.
Okay, so that's the first part of our discussion, but stay tuned for the second and third part. Same Bat channel regarding Bat time, I'm not quite sure, but probably next Bat week. So we'll see you then.